Hello and welcome to the Healed Approach podcast. I am your host, Rebecca Heald, and in this series, in partnership with the Facade Collective, we are going to be focusing on the phenomenal women in construction, highlighting their pivotal roles in an industry where they lead with resilience and innovation. This is a celebration of their achievements and a call to action for true equity in traditionally male-dominated fields. Join us as we uncover the stories of these inspiring women, the challenges they've overcome and the transformative impact they're making. With every story shared, we're constructing a future where everyone has the foundation to build their dreams. Let's embark on this revolutionary journey together. Hello and welcome to the Healed Approach podcast. Today I'm joined by Shruti Trivedi. Shruti, thank you so much for being here today.
Pleasure. Thank you for having me.
So Shruti is a lawyer who is trying to do things differently. Not trying, should I say. And she is the co-founder of Devello. Now, Shruti, I've known Shruti a while through networking because she works a lot in the planning and construction industry. And we were just chatting not long ago when we had our shopping meeting. And she was telling me about some of the things that she's doing at Devello to really diversify, be inclusive and break down barriers in the industry that she's working in. And that's why I really wanted her to come on today, because I think I'm always talking about how we need to start looking at alternative solutions for doing things. And I think you've just got some great examples of that, Shruti. So I'm going to be quiet. Over to you. Tell us, first of all, about Devello, where it came from and what your mission and vision is.
Thank you, Rebecca. Normally I try to keep it quiet that I'm a lawyer until it's absolutely essential to confess to that. But as you said, hopefully trying to do something different here. Devello is effectively a mixture of an idea that myself and my co-founder, Ian Hibbert, who's not joined by us on the call, but, hello, Ian.
Hi, Ian.
He listens. We've both worked in law for all our careers. Almost 2 decades now. We're aging ourselves instantly. That I've also aged Ian, which I'm sure he'll thank me for later. As I said, we're both sort of lawyers effectively. Ian's expertise is property and development. My expertise is planning law. We worked together for about 8 or 9 years together at our previous practice. And at various points during that, we used to have discussions about, doing things differently within law. Could we do things differently? And then some common themes emerged. And it wasn't just through discussions between myself and Ian. I've had throughout my career, and I know Ian has, with lots of other lawyers across the board. And there have been times in my career that I have thought that the problem itself in terms of these sort of themes that you touch upon, diversity, inclusivity, it's a problem with the legal industry, but it's not, it is a wider issue. And we just came to the realization that if you really want to do something very differently, then perhaps it's time to put your money where your mouth is, and you might just have to do it yourself. Mm-hmm. You can work in a structured environment of the legal industry, which is, been around for a long time. And I've been fortunate enough that I have worked at some excellent practices, which did teach me a lot. But essentially, all the law firms I've worked at have been traditional, what you call traditional law practices, where they're full service law firms. They work on, when I say the word traditional, I don't just mean in terms of, some of them would class themselves as modern law firms, but they still work on the basis of, they're essentially law firms where lawyers are required to account for the time. So we would be in a structure, which I'm sure anybody who's been fortunate or not to use lawyers knows, where we give you, a breakdown of how much time we spent on your matter. That's then billed. On the other side of that, internally, in terms of a management structure, that means a lot of the promotion prospects, the lawyers' growth plans, and what happens to them and their career is dictated by that. So you are working around how much time are you able to bill, what's your target, and of course, there's a lot of factors that go into it, but essentially that's the model. So we just decided we would create a different type of law firm, one that was aimed more at what we thought was thinking that fit in with the clients that we act for, and what we were hearing from people directly all the time about what they didn't like about their existing legal offering, The biggest theme was around service, and externally and internally, and also looking after your teams really, and how to create a place where you are offering the best service you can. Of course, it's a business, so I appreciate that, you've got to make money. Is it always right doing it at the expense of the people who work for you and with you? Or do you really want to create this inclusive, collaborative culture? And so that's what we've tried to do with Devello. And how we've done that really is by having a structure where we don't, as a rule, time record. We might have to do that when a client specifically requests it, or in my case, when I do work that is in court on litigation matters, that's when we do time record. Otherwise, we don't time record, and we don't have individual targets.
Yeah. And I think, is this, do you know of any other practices, I suppose, that are breaking away from that and doing things differently that way?
There are a few, yes. I think they are in a minority, but again, and I'm sure that's something else we will touch upon in a minute. But yes, there are some who do things differently. Not all law firms, as we found out, much to our delight, do work on the traditional model of just the time recording model. They're few and far between, but yes, there are some like us, not many. But effectively, there is a brilliant book that both Ian and I read, and we were fortunate enough to then engage with the author. And it's all about what's called it's about ditch the billable hour. So there are different pricing models out there for the legal industry, and some of those are effectively value-based pricing, which is how we regard ourselves as positioning ourselves as. But yeah, there is a short list of a few, but not that many that I really come across day to day, I must say. I generally deal with most lawyers I have on the other side of me are at firms where they still work to the, they record their time and account for the time and bill their clients according to time they've spent on a matter.
Okay, interesting. And do you find that is, it's popular with clients and it's something that they appreciate and value?
You mean the model of giving them a time break?
Yeah.
No, surprisingly.
Oh, really?
Well, the main reason we did this was we were finding clients, especially a lot of our clients are effectively developers, landowners, even individuals, some institutions, and also funders. That's it. Anybody who is in property or planning, get very frustrated when they get given a breakdown of you saying, this is the job, but I have actually spent X many minutes, and it's all broken down into units, which are 6-minute slots of your time.
Yeah.
Because as you can imagine, from client's perspective, they just want some certainty. They want to know whether a job is going to cost them £500, £1,000, to whatever it is, depending on the nature of the job, and they'll budget for that. Now, obviously, some firms do fixed fees, and then there's some sort of maneuvering around that in terms of how much time is then actually recorded against that matter. But the majority of clients that I act for don't like the time recorded system, because to them that implies that you are going to try and recover everything that you then spend on that matter, including any phone call you have with them, every email you send them. And we all know that, when you start forensically breaking down every task you do on a matter, it can be quite a lot, and it could really lead to your cost just skyrocketing. And that was a lot of the feedback we were getting, which was, in direct response to that, we've come up with our model.
Okay, excellent. Right, okay. So what I really love as well about this is that you're responding, I guess, to what people want, and you're breaking down, like you said, about practices that are following the traditional model that might say they're modern, but they're not, because then they're not doing things differently. And I think it's this old thing of, well, this is the way we've always done it, so this is the way that we're going to continue to keep doing it. But if we're going to innovate, if we're going to create more sustainable businesses, more sustainable cultures, then it's really important that we start doing things differently, right? And so I really love that. That's what and I know that's not where it stops. I know that you are, there's because we spoke about this, we spoke about how you are also, kind of challenging the status quo in terms of supporting mothers in the industry, in the field, and also as well new graduates, people coming in, because I talk about how diversity is super, super important in terms of gender, in terms of age as well. We do need that talent coming through.
Yeah,
And there are
exactly.
so many barriers there that I really feel that you're smashing. So can you tell us more about that?
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, effectively, and also before we go too much further, I'd like to. There's nothing intrinsically wrong in firms having a model where it is just based on roughly calculating what time is spent on a matter for them to cost it up. But it's when that's taken to the next level, then, and then everything around the structure of the firm then runs on that, including, it's being used as a management tool to the exclusion of everything else.
Yeah.
Now, what that does soon is you soon start to create barriers for certain people. So, people who don't neatly fit into the mold of they are doing the sort of work that it's very easy to account for in 6 minute slots and show that they spend a lot of time on a matter and are lucky enough to have clients who can allow them to recover that sort of cost. So that's one part of it. Effectively, when people tell us all the time that we're doing something different, it takes us aback. Both Ian and I have said that we just think we're just doing what feels right.
Yeah.
And again,
Yeah.
and a lot of people think that that's idealistic, naive. I think somebody recently called us mad. Which, I take that as a badge that I wear with pride.
I was going to say, you are a bit mad, Shruti. That's why I love you.
Absolutely. I think I'm all for people being mad. To me, that just is a term for coined by people who feel perhaps threatened or perhaps feel it odd that somebody's trying to do something that they don't. It doesn't fit into a neat little box that they've always worked within. But yeah, what we wanted to do was two things, Rebecca. One was really, really just improve that service and make sure that we deliver for our clients and our sort of our contact base what service they need, rather than arrogantly assuming that this is what we need to give them because hey, we're the lawyers, we know everything, which we don't. And secondly, genuinely make our firm a nice welcoming place where your team is happy to work at.
Yes.
And again, I keep saying this, maybe we are naive, maybe we are very, very optimistic, but the way we worked it out was not, this is a turnover figure we want. Ian and I want to make this much profit as partners or directors, and this is how much we want to take home, or this is the fortune we want to amass in monetary terms. But our logic was, you do an absolutely fantastic job, you provide the best service you can, be really ethical about it,
Yeah.
and genuinely look after your team, look after your people. The rest of it should come.
Exactly. And this is exactly what I say as well. But this is the same when it comes to anything. This is the same, I've been talking about this recently about sustainability as well, and, well-being, sustainability. There's so much well-being washing, greenwashing. There's so much, or we're doing this, or we're doing that, or we're putting this initiative in, and we're putting shops on this on. We're in mental health first aiders, or we're going for this certification in sustainability. But actually, you don't need to be doing, shouting about and spending lots of money on fancy, initiatives. What we need to be doing is just making sure that we're doing things right and we're doing things with integrity, and that
100%. 100%.
and that we're breaking down some of those invisible barriers,
But
that
yes,
we are experiencing. I mean, you'll be experiencing even just yourself, as a working mum, who is setting up a business. There are going to be so many barriers for you in that, just because you
it's on many levels, as you said, and I couldn't agree with you more. Again, something that Ian and I talk about all the time. We both worked at places where there's a huge emphasis in terms of we are winning an award for this because we are so you know great at thinking about this. We've got a
careful. I
program
won
where
an award last night.
well, yes, congratulations on that. Well, you won one that you deserved. So that's actually a real achievement. But what I mean about this is it's just saying, oh, we are doing this, and we've signed up to this fancy gym membership, and if you come and work for our company, you get free access to this app that tracks this, and then the GP is on call for you through our health insurance to give I'm not saying don't do all those things. Of course, those are great and those are perks that employees want to have. But why should your employees need to be worked to a level where their mental health is actually at risk in the first place? Should we be
Exactly.
taking a step back and saying, let's look at what we are doing here? Are we expecting people to work in an environment which is not good for them, mental health wise, long term health wise, their family life wise, and just in terms of giving them a balance? I mean, we a lot, work is one of those things that some of us absolutely love it, thrive on it, and really really drives us. And I like to think that you can create a practice where all your team buy into that. But at the same time, it has to fit in around people's lives. And if the practice stops to recognize them, recognize that, and then just starts looking at people who work with them and for them as people who are just a monetary transactional sort of commodity,
Yeah.
that's when I think that sustainability piece breaks down, and that
Yeah.
can't be a long-term sustainable business model.
No.
And and you referred to how we are trying to sort of break some of this. Yes, I experience barriers myself. I'm a working mom. I work in an industry where it's a lot better now, but when I first started off, I used to stick out like a sore thumb. I would go to meetings and people would assume that I'd come to take notes, and I didn't dress a certain way, I didn't look a certain way. All these were,
Yeah.
I wouldn't necessarily say they were just hardcore barriers as such, because
They're
often
invisible barriers. They're invisible barriers.
yes, because you were then having to fight against a preconception that people had about you, perhaps. That just meant that you had to sort of perhaps work extra hard. You
Yeah.
had to sort of go out of your way to prove yourself. And yes, you're right. You're absolutely right. There's many levels it works at. What we've tried to do is genuinely create this cohesive, inclusive environment. And do you want me to go on a little bit
Please,
about what? Yeah.
please do,
So,
because I think it's really important to share. I've been telling loads of people about what you're doing, because
oh,
when
thank
people
you.
talk, yeah, no, because I think it's really important that people. It's really difficult. I think a lot of people I speak to want to do things differently and can see the need to do things differently, but it's really really hard to challenge the status quo, because it's really hard to see out of what we've been conditioned into. Like it's so ingrained in our psyche that you work 9 to 5 Monday to Friday, that when you have a baby you have 9 months off, and like, it's so and people can't see how there are solutions to all of this, and how all of that is so archaic and rooted in a workplace that isn't fit for purpose in 2024 and onwards.
Yes, absolutely. And it's literally just about flipping your thinking, if that is how you think, which, I like to think not too many people think like that, but it is scary
Yeah.
how I think the conditioning point is very true. The number of times I've tried to ask questions elsewhere about why do we have to do it this way? And I know Ian felt the same. Why can't we do this differently? And the answer generally always was, it's this is how the industry works. This is how the business works. There's no other way to sort of really create a profitable working law firm. Well, I know it's early days for us and we're only new, but here we go. There is a way. And actually, I've got more work than I know what to do with at the moment, because
Yeah.
people are buying into this and people are asking us to work for them. And hopefully, the quality of what we are producing is so much better because we've created an environment within which to do it, which is assisting us to do what we really like to do, which is, for people in my position, be a lawyer and not just get bogged down totally by looking at things on a spreadsheet, trying to make that work. In terms of trying to include people, you're 100% right about the thinking. It's instead of thinking as for taking your example, mothers, oh my God, people are going to take 9 months off. Well, firstly, they don't really often take 9 months off as such. Most of us, like me, I worked literally till the week before I gave birth, which you shouldn't have to, but that's just that was what happened at the time. And some people take 5 months off, some people take a year off, some people take shorter, longer.
Some people
There's
take no time. I've been speaking to some amazing women leading businesses in construction who literally, had a week-old baby on their desk while they were doing, you know.
It's astounding. I just spoke to somebody about 2 weeks ago, and she went back to work when her child was about 6 weeks old.
Yeah,
And as a mom, you can imagine how heart wrenching that would have been. The amount of stress that will have physically and mentally caused her. And I think she's only just about dealing with that now. It's really just a very, very short sighted, and in my opinion, an absolutely foolish way to look at it. These are very, very talented for us in our industry, and in any industry, really, women who you are actually just writing off your work pool for no good reason.
yeah,
You show me a better organized multitasker than a working mom, and I'll give you money in return for that. Because I know, especially since I've become a mom, I always thought that I was quite organized and I could multitask quite well. But you have to do it on a whole different level. Trying to get your children to school on time, or having them fed, watered, whilst working. You just learn to manage time so much more differently
yeah,
and efficiently, perhaps.
yeah,
But I think when you give people a structure where they have to clock in at a certain time, clock off at a certain time, you don't give them the flexibility around holidays, etc. You are really just not doing yourself or your company or your product any favors whatsoever, because these are people that could add so much more. I
yeah,
listened to one of your other podcasts where you very correctly spoke about that sort of diversity piece, including, sort of not closing your mind off to being challenged and having a different perspective. Because as soon as you get a different perspective from somebody who's not conforming to your 9 to 5 model, perhaps, you can start to improve what you're offering.
exactly.
And to give you an example on the working mums front, we've actively gone out to make it an inclusive place for working mums. So one of the things Ian and I were in agreement on, because we've personally known some absolutely brilliant lawyers who've either had to leave law or have had to work for a totally different type of law firm, just because their current practices weren't giving them any flexibility about being mums.
Same in construction. And it's just accepted. It's when you have a child, so many people I speak to that just came out of the industry because they couldn't do it. Yeah,
In my throat. Yes, and what we've tried to do there, Rebecca, is offer a model that if somebody's a working mom and wants the summer holiday period off, we are going to allow them to do that. But we are going to allow them to do that in a genuine, sustainable manner, by not just having the workload then pile up and then waiting for them when they come back, which is just going to drown them, and
yeah,
which often happens. But actually, we will, at that time, if their contract with us is that they literally want the whole of the 6 week summer break off, we'll pro rata their pay, so they
yeah,
still get paid every month, so they still have a steady income coming in. And we will allow them to do that, but during that time, there is an absolute guarantee for them that their work will be covered.
yeah,
Now, if that means we redistribute that work to the existing members of our team, that's fine. And secondly, or alternatively, we'll go as far as to even externally hire resource and share the fees for the jobs that we're making with external resource, equally qualified, equally experienced, so that the client service isn't being affected. And we can do all of this because we are not looking at everybody's input just on a spreadsheet of how much time they've spent on a matter.
yeah,
So
yeah,
suddenly it starts to come together.
yeah,
Similarly with young people, this whole just clocking time down and hitting your own individual target was causing such a toxic culture that I learned by shadowing, if you like, some very experienced senior lawyers, some of whom are now sort of really well known, planning lawyers nationally. But I was given that chance years ago when I first qualified to do that. As my career progressed and the pressure on billing and individual targets became too much, I could see around me that model was breaking down, and people were reluctant to take trainees or apprentices or their juniors along with them to meetings, because the juniors were reluctant to come because they were saying, "Can I charge for my time coming with you?" And you were saying no, because the client's paying for a lawyer, they're not going to pay for two. The firms are saying, well, how can two people do this job that's for one person? We've only priced it for one person, charging 5 hours on this job. But the end effect of that was the senior lawyer wasn't getting the support they always needed. The junior lawyer wasn't learning. and then everybody was trying to hoard work, and it's like a domino effect, and then the toxicity just spreads. So by dispensing away with that sort of model as well, we're really able to take our juniors along with us when we need to. They're able to learn. They're not feeling the pressure of hitting some sort of mythical target,
Mm,
and it's just suddenly taken the discussion to a new level.
mm. Yeah, no, I love that. And I also love, I mean, forgive me if I get some of the details of this wrapped around my neck. But did you also as well, I think you've been given, some, I can't remember because I don't know. But, is it about giving opportunities as well to graduates that is not usually the case in the industry, let's say?
So we are really, really keen to invest in young
Yeah.
people who really need a chance. The other thing we used to hear a lot was everybody wants work experience, and everybody wants to say, what experience have you got? Well, if somebody doesn't give somebody the chance to get experience,
Yes, exactly.
how are they going to get experience?
Yeah.
So we welcomed people coming in for just some work experience. We've recently also just taken on a solicitor apprentice, and we're hugely excited. She is so bright. Matilda's just started with us. This is her second full week with us, and she's already showing so much promise, and we just couldn't be prouder of her. She's brilliant. We didn't actually seek to recruit her. We'd advertised for a planning paralegal or a newly qualified planning lawyer, and just through the power of the LinkedIn community, Rebecca was brought to my attention. We spoke to her. We were very impressed with her. We had a few conversations with her, but we hadn't actually looked at hiring an apprentice at that point, because the apprentice scheme for legal work is relatively new. It's becoming more the norm now. And I know that a lot of the bigger firms do offer apprentice positions and things like that. But for a startup company, we in our mind had identified, just based on existing workloads, we needed a qualified solicitor or a paralegal experience with planning. But just when we spoke to Rebecca, she showed, when he spoke to Matilda, she showed so much promise, and she really convinced us that we should invest in her. And we just changed the whole of our recruitment intention. And we thought, why not? Yes, perhaps that's not particularly immediately what we were out to look for, but it's all about, taking a chance, and her taking a chance on us as well, because of course she was being courted by other practices because she's so bright and talented. Yes, and so she's come and joined us, and we're really, really proud that we can support her and she can support us.
Yeah, and I love that as well. And that's what I mean about giving young talent an opportunity. And I've spoken to a few other people that think like this and that are giving. Ross Chipperfield, who I had on recently, who is the founder of UB Infrastructure, and he's appointed an MD who's in his 20s, and I'm like, brilliant, because I think we can get so caught up in. Now, don't get me wrong, experience of course counts for a lot, but mindset counts for so much as well. And if you are creative, you're forward thinking, you're going to bring so much diversity. So looking at their business model, they've got people already on the team who have got that experience but have not necessarily got that innovative way of thinking because they're older, not necessarily so they're looking at, okay, we don't need another one. I mean, okay, it's not a female MD, but anyway, there's work that we need to keep doing to promote all of this, but and whatever, they've got a different perspective on the board, okay, and I think that is incredibly powerful, because no matter what we say, no matter what anyone says, we can, and I fight this every single day, right? Inequality exists, and it's going to continue to exist if we don't start admitting it, acknowledging it, and breaking away and doing things differently.
Absolutely.
It happens to me, and as a woman, I mean, you were there, gosh, I don't know if I should mention this, but you were there at UK Reef when I didn't get into an event, and then I saw somebody else going in that was a male business owner straight after me, and it's like, okay, so if I'd have been a man, You know, would that have been different? Yes, it would, because it happened right in front of my own eyes. Okay. So inequality, and this isn't just inequality, you know, men versus men or men versus women, it's across the board. Okay. We treat ourselves with inequality, you know, because we don't see the conditioning and the barriers that are there. I also, as well, this is going on off on a little bit of tangent, but, you know, we need to call it out and sexism, because I was at another event in Sheffield, and there was a guy there, and he was a young guy, and he was a bit inappropriate towards me. A couple of things that he said, and, you know, and how he behaved, let's say. Now, I picked up on it, but I think, and I wish looking back I'd said something, but I think I think we still have to work on what we've accepted previously and what we won't accept moving forward when we have our eyes opened. Anyway, when this person left, another man said to me, "Were you okay? That was really inappropriate." And I was like, "Actually, do you know what it was? But why didn't you say something while he was there? Why didn't you call him out on
Yes,
it?"
I agree. I think sometimes there's a big reluctance. I mean, it's the same. We you know, when we set out to do what we set out to do, we weren't trying to do this as a, uh, or we want to be different for the sake of being different,
No,
or to show anybody we're being different. We genuinely felt it was the right thing to do. And sometimes you can just do what you think should be done as the best example for it. But in terms of calling things out that you don't believe are right, I couldn't agree more. I think sometimes when you watch something around you and you think, I don't, it's challenging that, again, that status quo, isn't it? And yes, in the past, we might have just laughed and shrugged it off because we are embarrassed by something, but it's just seen as a norm. I mean, I trained in an era where if an inappropriate comment was made, people would often just brush it off and say, "Oh yeah, but it's just so and so. That's what they do,"
well,
and
that's still happening.
that
That is
still
still
happens.
happening.
Yeah, that still
So
happens.
much more. We like to think it's not. The amount of times when I have spoken to people about my experiences, or recently I was talking to somebody. She went on site, female engineer. She went on site with her boss, who was a man, and apparently the clients kept talking to him, kept talking about his plans, and he kept saying, "No, these are her plans." You know, and as they worked, so it was like, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry. I didn't know that was still happening." It is, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I always take that sort of in a number of different ways depending on the context of it. You get that fairly often in certain situations. I think as an industry, law has evolved that there is a lot of females working in law.
Yeah.
So it's that is one way in which it is evolved. But that's not where all the work has been done. There's still a lot of females, but it's what you've alluded to there is questioning it a bit more depth and
Yeah,
looking at, yes, there might be a lot of female lawyers, but how many of them are making it to the board of director level at all
exactly.
these big law firms? How many of them are still getting underpaid compared to male counterparts? And it's just breaking down those barriers, which can, diversity is, I've always said to people, don't think diversity is just necessarily about one thing. It's not just about race or
No,
about sex
no.
or about, it can be a combination of so many different factors across the board. And
Neurodiversity, you
yes,
know?
absolutely. And and it can be both ways. You mentioned the age thing. I've had it when people have said to me, "Oh, I'm instructing somebody else because I sort of thought that we needed somebody with more grey hair on this." And I've said to them, "So, but what sort of logic is that?
I know.
This is my
Again,
experience. This is
that's
what happened."
just, that's clear discrimination as well.
Yeah, and then it happens the other way around as well. Some people look at someone who's just very young and they say, "Oh, yeah, they look about 12. What are they going to know?"
Yeah.
Uh, you know, it's not reflective of their experience or their ability, what age necessarily they are. So,
Even,
uh,
yeah,
yeah, so that's what genuinely at Devello, the
even,
intention is to break through all of those that we can.
yeah, no. And I think you've kind of really hammered this point home, which I think is super important, so I'm going to hammer it even more, is that you're not doing it to hit a quota. You're not doing it to tick a box. You know, you haven't gone out to be different. You haven't gone out to, you know, approach DE&I in a particular way. You're just doing what feels right, and you're doing, you know, you're doing it with integrity. And this is what I'm trying to do, you know, with the organisations that I'm working with, because I'm like, you know, if you're going to be innovative, creative, sustainable from an environmental perspective, as well as social and people, you need to, that's what, you know, you should be building the building blocks of your organisation. Building blocks of organisations are still very patriarchal, and it needs to move on. I did also want to just touch on as well, before we wrap it up, about this, you know, you get, you can't do right for wrong. You're too old, you're too young, you're black, you're white, you're a woman, you're a man, but also as well, and you know, this is just the other thing. Yeah, oh, you know, you can't do the job because you're not old enough. But also, I get, as don't know how to make this sound well. I'll just say it as it is, right? As an attractive woman, right? People automatically think I'm not smart. I'm not intelligent enough. I don't know the amount of people that'll be like, oh God, you know, how
even now.
So even just, yes. So the other side of it is, you know, appearance is also something that drives our opinions.
It's really just about looking at people as people, and really just looking past the, and I know it sounds all very you know, airy fairy and altruistic here, but it's not. It's really simple. What are you recruiting for, or what are you trying to get into your company to add to your company? So stop thinking just in terms of it's a man, it's a woman, they're this racial origin, they are, you know, they look a certain way. Don't think about that. Genuinely think, are they thoughts aligned to yours? Are they values aligned to your business?
I think it's
Are they
more about
skills
values than thoughts,
and
because you want,
skills?
because you do want that diversity of thought, and you do want,
Absolutely.
yeah.
And are they going to actually challenge you? You know, I genuinely welcome people who challenge my thinking, because there's just no point in having everybody who is a clone of yourself. I find that at board level quite a lot in a lot of places. You know, the board is just not diverse in that sense. I don't mean I'm looking beyond the, you know, there's more men or more women on it, or the racial, you know, origins of all those people, but I'm looking at it more as, you know, these are all people who are not from different sort of walks of life, so they're not really challenging each other's thinking.
No.
And I think that's what's really important. That's where people really need to start looking at when they talk about sustainability.
Yeah, absolutely. Because it comes down to, you know, communication as well, you know. And yeah, it's
it is. When you break it down, it is simple. It's not something that's a really sort of complex process that we need to create a formulaic approach for. Yes, it's just, I always say to people, it's more an art than a science, really. And it's just, you know, but it's until people really start genuinely questioning and asking themselves what they really want to be known for or be known about, it's not going to change. But, and you know, there's no shame. I've said to other people that there's no shame if it's a practice which is just about, we want to make money, and that's what our driver is. And you know,
yeah, and I always say this as well, right? If that's what you want to do and that's your goal, great, but be honest about it.
Absolutely.
You know, just because that's the thing as well, is that this is another reason why, you know, attracting and retaining the right people is never going to be easy if your branding, if your, you know, isn't reflecting actually what you're about. So if money is the most important thing to your organization, stop saying that you care about people first. Okay? And just because there will be people out there that are the right people for your, you know, there are some people out there that just want to go to work, want to do their job, want to make money. They don't necessarily want to have that sense of belonging and safety and what have you. There are some people where that is more important. So just be honest about what it is you are and who you are.
We say that to people when they come in for interviews with us to join us. I ask people, and so does Ian, is your driver that you are somebody who likes to be individually rewarded? So are you driven by saying, my target was £250,000, I've smashed it, I've hit 350, because I've worked with lawyers like that all my life, and that's fantastic for them. They're very individualistic, they don't really like working as a team, but then when they're being internally promoted in a firm, they're saying, we're a team player, we love bringing up team, we're all about, we put people at the heart of everything we do. They don't. And just be honest about what you are and what you're not. And there's, like I said, there's no shame in it. If that's what drives you, individual performance, and you hitting individual targets and being fantastic at it, there will be a practice that suits you. That's not us, but we tell people that, and we say to people, we are really about the collective, and we are about a collaborative approach. We also don't look at other firms as our competition necessarily. We are niche. We do a niche area of law. We work with so many other companies, including other law firms. So it's just understanding what your root values are, as you said, and then not being ashamed of them.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's a really good place to wrap it up, because I think you've articulated that beautifully, Shruti. Thank you so much.
Thank you. It becomes easier when someone chatting to you makes it so much sort of smoother. We could go on about it for a long time, couldn't we? But we won't.
We could, and I always find this, that, I love this podcast, because as much as I'm rubbish at marketing it, it's the conversations are just always incredible. And thank you so much, because I think anybody who's listening needs to go and check you out. Can you let people know where they can find you, actually?
Our website is www.devellogroup.co.uk, and all our mugshots and everything else that they might need is on there. Our LinkedIn profiles are on there. And, I'm really grateful for the opportunity. Thank you for thinking of me, and thank you for letting me come and speak to you.
No, thank you. And thank you, everybody who has been listening. Please make sure you do check out Shruti, and you also make sure that you leave us a 5-star review. And please do follow us, like and share the podcast, because the more people that we can reach with this message, the better. So thanks ever so much again, Shruti, and everybody listening. I'll see you here next time.